And then other players started developing the offload as well. At one point, we put a 7 on the end of our calls. So we might have Canterbury 7, which just a reminder to the 7, whether it was Richie or whoever, that the offload was a possibility off the strike move, and him to be able to position himself to receive that. So we tended to look at keeping the ball alive as a first option, and that meant offloading even before the tackle or pass before the tackle, then offload in the tackle. There's a sequence of events. If you went to the ground, a pop, if it was possible. If it wasn't, then you placed and you went to the ruck. So the ruck was often the third choice.
Offloads, you obviously had Sonny Bill, worked with him a lot. And from what I saw in a lot of strike moves, it almost looked like the move was to try and get an offload somewhere around him at times, and other Ma'anonu as well. Right across the park, there was offloads. Was that part of the thinking as well, or was that just one of the options?
Yeah, well, Sonny Bill changed the game. There's no doubt about that. He was freakish with his skill. We always taught offloads, but it was only ever an option, and it was an option that was seldom used. And it always looked like flair. You talked about counter attack and passing that before, that it looks like flair. It's really flair camouflaged as hard work, and we just started to work really hard at it. And coaches have always said, you've got to sight the receiver longer when you offload. Sonny had this amazing ability to see them at the corner of his eye, so he didn't give away that he had seen the guy. He would use his peripheral vision. He was reasonably predictable in that he was right-handed, so he'd often come out the back of the right hand. If he was passing to his left, then he would come around his body that way, which meant then that your support players needed to work with him. They needed to know if they were coming on the left-hand side, they needed to be slightly deeper because the pass would take slightly longer and the pass would be deeper. If they were coming to his right-hand side, then they had to be a bit flatter. And so they needed in their own time. We always had periods at the end of training where they ran their own skill sessions. So if they wanted to be really exceptional at getting offloads from Sonny, they needed to work with him on that. And then other players started developing the offload as well. At one point, we put a 7 on the end of our calls. So we might have Canterbury 7, which just a reminder to the 7, whether it was Richie or whoever, that the offload was a possibility off the strike move, and him to be able to position himself to receive that. So we tended to look at keeping the ball alive as a first option, and that meant offloading even before the tackle or pass before the tackle, then offload in the tackle. There's a sequence of events. If you went to the ground, a pop, if it was possible. If it wasn't, then you placed and you went to the ruck. So the ruck was often the third choice. Often became the first choice, obviously, but that was a sequence that we liked to try and keep the ball alive and give the game continuity. It's always been a point of difference for the All Blacks.
And you're speaking a lot there about supporting players around the offload and coaching that in. I've heard you speak about looking for the offload, holding off rather than sort of getting into your clean-out role straight away. How was that built into the guys?
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I'm not a real fan of going behind players in attack. I can understand the need within your phase plays to be able to give a tip ball and then be able to go behind that player. But to me, going behind a pack of players, like passing behind 3 forwards, for example, and then playing deep behind them, to me takes out that ability to keep the ball alive, and it takes out the ability to get really quick cleans. There's a great example. I don't know if you remember, but we're playing the Wallabies at the stadium, at the covered-in stadium down in Dunedin. I forget what year it was. Anyway, they played really, really well. Hooper and Beale and guys like that were on fire. And they scored right near the end of the game to go into the lead. And it was about the 79th minute. In fact, I think the hooter went as we were kicking off. And we did a short kick to Kieran Reid, who went up, kicked the ball back to Rico Iwani. So now we're in counter-attack mode. And because I was coaching counter-attack with the All Blacks, I was really adamant that we always go in front of players rather than behind them, because we want to score quickly off counterbacks when we keep the ball alive. Anyway, we got this ball. Rico goes into a ruck, and Sam Whitelock and Kane Hames go straight up and stand flat beside the ruck, which wasn't our pattern. And then so we went behind them, and we went wide, and Brodie Retallick was standing really wide by himself. Luckily, it was Brodie actually, really wide by himself, isolated. So the ball goes to Brodie. He's got about 3 tacklers hitting him. He was able to fight to stay up because he's got that capability to wait for Sam and Kane Hames to get back and clean the ruck. They didn't get there, so someone else had to get there. But you could see their brains going as they were heading back. Oh, jeepers, we've done the wrong thing here. Somebody's going to kill us tomorrow in the review. And so they come back and they go behind the line, which is where I wonder them, if you don't want to be in the front line as an attacker, just step back and let the ball go in front of you. So that's what they did. We moved the ball back the other way. The ball carrier got tackled. Those two came in, cleaned. We got lightning quick ball, and bang, we scored under the post and we won the test match. And to me, it's a great clip because I shout to everyone, every team I coach, to say, there's a reason we want to go in front of guys and counter-attack rather than behind them, because there's options to clean or keep the ball alive.